Native plants are incredible, but some of them can be rather aggressive and take over your entire garden. So rather than selecting the wrong plants and being put off by native gardening, I want to help you. So today I'm going to give you my top 10 plants for the home garden. Plants that behave and largely stay where you put them. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, straddling zones 6 and 7, and the plants on this list are ones that I have direct experience with that I'm growing on my property. But this isn't to say that these are the best plants overall, or maybe not even the best plants for you in your specific context. But these are going to be a good place for you to start if you want to get growing with native plants. The first plant on my list is Blue False Indigo. This plant right here, this is its first year blooming. It takes a while for it to establish, and that is true of a lot of native plants. Usually they don't bloom in their first year, maybe not even in their second year. This is year 3. But once established, this plant, because of the large taproot that it sends down, will be very drought tolerant. It'll get nicer, bigger and bushier, but won't spread. And it's a solid, long-lived foundation plant, one that you should consider adding to your garden. And then we have Eastern Blue Star. Eastern Blue Star is a stunning plant that almost has like a shrub-like shape. It has these lovely white bluish flowers that it sends out in early spring, but it doesn't have the most benefit for pollinators. A lot of things don't actually visit these, oddly enough. You would think that they would, being a native plant, but it is a good plant that is very well behaved, stays where you put it, and it has lovely fall interest as well, because the foliage turns a nice golden yellow color. But this is a good plant, good upright structure, has those nice blooms, and would be a lovely addition to your home garden if this is a plant that is native where you're at. And being native to where you're at is key. This is Eastern Red Columbine, the third plant on my list, an absolute favorite because in my childhood home growing up, we had these on our property in front of our house. In the wild, you typically see these in shaded areas, partial shade, but when I was younger, they grew perfectly fine in full sun, so they can work pretty well and are very, very adaptable. They send out these lovely red flowers, which are good for hummingbirds, other pollinators. They tend to sort of signal when they open up. You should expect the hummingbirds arriving to your area as they're migrating north. But there are cultivars and different species of columbine. This is Eastern Red Columbine, the one that is native to Kentucky. Make sure that you kind of know what you're getting and that it is native to your area. I caution against going to a lot of the big box stores because sometimes they don't clearly label things and they may lead you to believe that the plant you're buying is native, but it is either not native or a cultivar, and maybe worse, could actually be detrimental to your native ecosystem. Okay, let's see if I can get both this plant and me in frame. I'm talking about this one right here. Not this one. This is a lovely plant. This is a turtle head, also a very good plant. But I'm talking about this one right here. This is a dense blazing star. There's several different types of blazing stars. Liatris, another one that you could, find at a local store that may not be the native one. This is a great long-lived plant. Shoots up these beautiful plumes. Another name for it is the gay feather. This one is year 2, maybe year 3. So I'm very hopeful that it will flower this year. It really thrives in full sun. I'm pushing the boundary in this partial sun location, but you can do that with a lot of plants. If it says that it's full sun, you can probably go partial. If it says that it is, full shade, you can probably also bump it and go partial, as long as it's not getting that intense afternoon sun and is retaining moisture. The same thing with soil moisture as well. If it says that it needs, medium, you're on either side of having, medium dry, medium wet. So you tend to have a little bit of wiggle room with a lot of these plants. And once they're established, they're pretty forgiving. And here we have Asclepia tuberosa. This is a milkweed, a butterfly milkweed, one of the prettiest native plants. It has these lovely orange flowers, but if you know anything about milkweeds, you know that they are the host plant for the monarch caterpillar. I have several species of milkweed growing on my property. This one is one of my favorite. This exact plant in particular, because it has been one of the longest lived butterfly milkweeds on my property. I've got several more started. Well, I guess several is an understatement. I've got a few hundred more started that I'll be planting some of my property, but also selling here locally in the Louisville area. But this little plant right here is a lovely, just pollinator magnet. Again, the monarch caterpillars, come to lay its eggs on here. But you want to be sure that you're getting a native, local milkweed. Don't get tropical milkweed. And while in the right context, common milkweed can be a good choice, there's a reason that it's called a weed. Common milkweed can be rather aggressive, might not be the best for a home gardener. I've placed some in front of my house. It's starting to get a little out of control, so I may have to eradicate it there. But don't worry, I've got 50 more started inside that I'll be planting out. Give milkweed a shot. But more than helping the monarch caterpillars, you also have to think about the adults. When I say adults, I'm talking about the migrating adults. The ones that you see in the fall, at least in Kentucky, are on their way down to Mexico where they're going to overwinter. The whole life cycle of a monarch is absolutely fascinating, but those ones that you see in the fall, they need nutrition. They need fall blooming plants. That's where asters come in. This right here is an aromatic aster. Has a lovely scent. That's why it's called aromatic aster. But all asters maybe don't have a place in the home garden. I've got the New England aster, which is a great plant, but can be a little bit overwhelming for some. It can get very, very big. It prolifically seeds. They're easy enough to yank out in the spring. And you can do what is called a Chelsea chop, named after the timing of the Chelsea Flower Festival in England. You can chop it down halfway and it'll be a little bit more diminutive in size. But a lot of people that I know have trouble with the New England aster. I have them, I love them, they're good for me, but I'm a very active gardener. And maybe you need to try something more like the aromatic aster. It'll get about this tall, hasn't been really spreading for me. Another great one would be the smooth blue aster. So look for asters that will be flowering in the fall that aren't going to be, a pain. Like this aster, which I regret letting proliferate. Next on my list would be the purple coneflower. I've got several growing in here. This is a plant that you probably know, Echinacea purpurea. Another one that you can find lots of coneflowers at your local hardware store. They may not be the native one. So if you ever see and you're reading a name and it's got like a little trademark on after the name, like Cheyenne is one, it's an orange cultivar. That's not the native one. You want the true native species. I love them. They produce a lot of seed, great for birds, especially if you want to attract yellow finches. There's nothing, I think, like, it's just so beautiful seeing that like bright yellow little bird perched on that purple flower. Perfect kind of combination of colors and just a symbol of nature. Oh, you need that. You need that in your garden. Grow purple coneflowers. They're a very forgiving plant. Very good to get started with. Now this plant right here is hairy beard tongue. Beard tongues are a great addition to penstemons. Hairy beard tongue is a very early bloomer, so a good nectar source early in the year. Right now we're just at the very end of April when I'm filming this video. This is a nice little plant. It may not look like much, but it just adds a little bit of interest to the garden. Very low growing, does well in shade, partial sun, might even be able to push it into full sun. This is a cool little plant. And it's got these little lips on it, and then this one has particularly, it's got a little like hairy little tongue on the lip. I don't know, it's a fun little flower. And here's a notable mention, the coral honeysuckle. Coral honeysuckle, a great plant, good for the hummingbirds. It doesn't make my official list of 10 because you do need a structure to hold this thing up. So maybe it's like level 2 native plant, but a good one. Have you heard the horror stories of people planting mint in their garden and regretting it? Well, there are several native mints, mountain mints. This is slender mountain mint, and in my experience, the most well-behaved one. It's got a nice little kind of bushy structure. This one is on year 3 and has just been slowly expanding. Nothing like very, very aggressive, easily manageable. If I wanted to cap it off here, I could just stick in a shovel and work around the edges to keep it small, or divide it, move it elsewhere. Great little plant. When this blooms later in the summer into the fall, it's going to be covered in pollinators. So give mints a chance, particularly this one, the slender mountain mint. This is probably my go-to for the mountain mints for the home garden. And last but not least, I think you need to add a grass. Add a native grass to your garden. Now, some of our native grasses get very, very large, but stately and lovely, like our Indian grass, switchgrass. But this right here is little blue stem. Gets 2 to 3 feet tall. It's called blue stem because the fluorescence that it puts out, the flowers are this greenish blue color. So if you have a nice stand of them, they kind of look like a waving sea in the fall. This plant also has great interest in the winter because it stays sort of a nice upright clump that then turns brown, so it adds a fun, interesting structure in your winter garden. If you're going to add a grass, this is a good one. There's several other good grasses. Pink muhly grass is a fun one, purple top grass, and then sedges. Oh, there's a lot of good sedges. It's hard to choose 10. So what do you think? Do you have any of these? Do you have all of them? Is there something that is native to your area that you absolutely love growing in your garden? Please let me know in a comment down below. If you're in the Louisville, Kentucky area and you want any of these plants or are looking for a source of native plants, well, I've got you covered. Welcome to my little native plant nursery, a little backyard nursery, Louisville Native Plant Nursery. Pretty easy to remember at louisvillenative.com. There are other places also locally that you can get native plants that are also very great. Drop seed, ironweed, and then like Idlewild in Louisville is a really cool spot to get native plants. But if you want to get them from me, I've got a lot that I've been growing, up to 45 species, I think, that are ready. More will be ready in the fall. All the ordering is done online, and then you pick up the Saturday after you ordered. Orders cut off at Friday at noon, so I can, package everything, have it waiting for you when you swing by. But hopefully you find a blank spot in your property, in your lawn, in your gardens to plant a native. Until next time, my name is Tyler Lloyd, and I wish you the very best. See you later.